All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It's 10:30, so I'll give people a couple more seconds here to get logged in. If I can get a hand raise, a high five, a hey, I can hear you. Where are you listening in from? That would be awesome. We do have the question and answer panel on the side. So you guys can ask some questions throughout the day. We have a lot to cover today. We are going to be talking about purchase orders inside of QuickBooks Online Advanced, QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop, and in Acumatica. So looking at a comparison between the three, and it's quite interesting comparison today. So lots of good things. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, this is Marjorie. I've been leading these calls the last couple of weeks. We are going to have another one of these webinars next month. So we'll have 2 more next month and 2 more the month following. Okay, just quick little nuggets. We can get some learning about comparing different systems out there and whether or not you need to move into a different system. So for Uniques, a little bit about 4Lanes. We've been the top QuickBooks solution provider for 10 years now. And so that's a really long time. We have a lot of QuickBooks clients. We really know how to make QuickBooks, push QuickBooks to its absolute limits for customers, right? Sometimes say we've got people in QuickBooks that probably shouldn't be there, but we've kept them in product for years, right? Because they like the ease of use, they like the ease of price and functionality, and the fact that you can find staff that knows QuickBooks, all those things. So we do QuickBooks and ERP. There are very few people that bridge that gap, that do implementations and conversions into both sides of the table there. We do accounting and systems, so we know how to set up the system. We know how to push the systems to their absolute limits, how to get creative with systems so that you don't need to go in and do customizations or app add-ons. But then, of course, we do those things when they're needed. But we also know the accounting. So we're going to be talking to you about why you should set things up in a particular way so that you can review financials at the end of the day, because that's the goal, right? The goal is obviously taking care of your customers, fulfilling orders, all that fun stuff, but we've got to get to those financials, and we've got to get to that data to make decisions. And then, of course, we're project managers for change management. Our formula to success is we do a lot of different services. Everything is highly focused on getting data. Data is what we need to make decisions, right? We all have gut feelings when it comes to business, but having data to substantiate those feelings when we're making decisions is important, and all of these services here help contribute towards that. All right, so let's go ahead and get in product. So we're going to start things out actually with QuickBooks Online. And so I'm in the QuickBooks Online Advanced product. So a couple of things, you can go into the settings, right? You have to go into settings to turn on purchase orders, okay? There are a couple different things that you can turn on when you enable purchase orders. There's some custom fields that you can have in the advanced version of QuickBooks Online. But I come over here to New, and I come into my purchase order screen. When we have a purchase order, there are a couple of things that we can do. So you obviously choose the vendor. You can say who you're going to be sending this purchase order out to, and there can be multiple emails there. The statuses are open and closed, right? So purchase order status is open or closed. Mailing address, ship to if we're shipping to a customer, doing some kind of drop shipping. The purchase order date, the shipping address, right? And the ship via field is here, which is a free type field. We do have tags in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Tags are what they sound like, right? What you would be using them in marketing as. So you can fill in tags, and then you can run things like a profit and loss and filter by tags. Okay, but it is a type in field, right? Start typing to add a tag. Then you can add custom fields when it comes to purchase orders. So we can add custom fields in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Now you can add custom fields that have a drop down, right? So multiple choice options as well. So I think that sometimes there's a little bit of confusion as to when we would use tags versus custom fields. And of course, tags are used in more places than where custom fields can be used. Custom fields also can be printed out so that they can be customer facing or vendor facing in this case. So down below here, so we have category details. There's two things here on the purchase order that are different than what you're used to seeing in QuickBooks Desktop. So you can put things in directly to a GL account code. So I can put in a purchase order straight to, job supplies, which probably shouldn't be an expense, right? It should be a cost of goods sold, but I can put it directly in there and then put in a description and the amount. Okay, so that is something that's a little bit different. You can also tie it through an item, which is where we recommend most often, right, is to tie a purchase order through an item, whether it be a service item, an inventory part, or whatever it is, but to tie it through the item here, then you can have a quantity, rate, and an amount. Okay, we can add additional lines. We can have a standard message to the vendor, or you can type in a message to the vendor, a memo field, and then, of course, any kind of attachments we can add to that purchase order screen as well. Okay. All right. So pretty simple, right? Purchase order then goes into a bill and item receipt, so you can receive everything in. The bill and the item receipt are the same transaction. Okay. Meaning at the point of receipt of items, your inventory is going to go up and your accounts payable is going to go up, right? That's the effect. In QuickBooks Desktop, I'm looking in the enterprise product, and I'll specify what is unique to enterprise. So along the top, of course, we've got our little menu bar, right? New, save, delete, create a copy of, memorize. You can memorize purchase orders. I want to order these every month for the next 10 months. Print email later, attach documents. Okay. We are going to have more formatting options in QuickBooks Desktop than in QuickBooks Online, although I know that they're continuing to get better and better in online as far as formatting our templates, because this would be an external facing template, right? Vendors, we have our vendors there. We can, of course, we have our class field, our drop ship to, so you can pull up, it ties you to your customer list directly there. Date, right? Vendor address would be pulled up here, ship to, terms, our expected due date, our delivered date, so it can be a different date. Ship via is a drop down here, so it comes from a list, FOB. And then I have some custom fields that I've set up just based on my demos, right? So I can have a custom field for status. In QuickBooks Desktop, the status is closed or open, right? I can mark it as closed or it's an open PO. It closes automatically if the PO has been entirely received, right? But if I needed some additional statuses, so where we'll see something like that is we'll see people who want to keep track of, did I send it to the vendor? Am I waiting approval on this? Am I waiting for shipment? Like, where is it along the pathway? But this is used through a custom field to create these statuses. Also, another one is who ordered it. So that's another one that we've set up for people before. So who requested this purchase order to come in the system? Okay, so we've kind of manipulated the system through custom fields to get that information. And since QuickBooks Online Advanced now, you can have drop-down custom fields. You would be able to add those fields as well, just not as many. Down below here on the purchase order, so you can see we can add items to purchase orders. We do not have the ability to post directly to a GL account code. And then there was a question in there. It said disregard, but I'll point it out too. But it said, how do you reference a job on your purchase order? So on the line level, you reference the job. Which job are you buying this from or for? If you do a sales order or an estimate and you convert it to a purchase order, it would pull the customer job information across for you as well. Okay. So items, some of the fields that we can pull in from the items. The manufacturer's part number can be pulled onto the purchase order. The quantity, right? We have the class field, obviously the rate. In the latest edition of QuickBooks, this is an enterprise only feature. So sorry, the custom drop downs, right, of having multiple choices is an enterprise only feature as well. But in enterprise this year, they added the ability to compare vendors when it comes to parts, right? So we talked about this a little bit last week, but you can upload different vendors' price lists and you can see who your preferred vendor is, but also other vendors that you've purchased this particular part from, and when you last ordered from, last quantity, last price, some more information. So that's an enterprise only feature that's not available in other versions of QuickBooks. Okay. And then of course I have some custom fields at the line level too. My poor demo files get so abused over here. So, so from the purchase order screen, one thing that it does set enterprise apart, you do have the ability to receive items in, and that receipt of items, it would be a debit to inventory and a credit to like a received not invoiced account. And then you can have your bill come in, and that credits AP and offsets that received not invoiced account. So your bill can come in and it's not affecting your inventory parts, right? Your inventory can come in and it's not affecting your AP, right? Affecting your liabilities, but not necessarily your AP. So that is an enterprise only. It's called enhanced inventory. It's available in all versions of enterprise. That is something that sets it apart from QuickBooks Online. Okay. Any questions on purchase order entry in QuickBooks? Before I move into Acumatica, I tried to get through that one quickly because there's so much. There's so many different things. Okay, so let's flip on over into Acumatica. So a couple things before we get into the purchase order. So Acumatica has multiple steps that you can go through, you don't have to go through, in order to get to a purchase order, right? In QuickBooks Online, you can go sales order to purchase order. Not QuickBooks Online. In QuickBooks Online, you can go estimate to purchase order. It doesn't have sales orders, right? In desktop, you can go estimate to purchase order, sales order to purchase order, but there's no step before a purchase order. So in Acumatica, you can use these, right, when you're ready to build in extra steps in your purchasing process, but you don't have to use these. Okay, so I want to make that clear. So you have a request, right? So Jimmy, works in IT and has a request that he needs to order a couple computers. So puts in a request. He's not responsible for sourcing those computers, but he's putting in a request that he needs to have some additional computers. Or, Joey, who's in a different department. I can't get creative right now, but he's needing paper. We're out of paper in our department. He puts in a request for paper, right? Joey, Sally, Sarah, Chris, they all put in requests for paper. So whoever's responsible for going and sourcing that paper can do all of them. Sorry, I just had an interruption from my 3-year-old. All right, so that's a request, right? And then a requisition is another step in between where it's, okay, I see all these requests. I'm going to go start to figure out and source, where can I get these products? Where can I get this stuff? All right, so then we have that extra step. One of the things that you can do in Acumatica is you can actually go and submit for bidding. So if you wanted to get bids from all the different paper companies that are local, right? And call it Dunder Mifflin and see how much is your paper going to be today versus the other person's paper. So you can do bidding from your vendors and get competitive bid responses to decide who you're going to actually submit the purchase order to. Then the purchase order is the contract, right? I am buying from you. You are going to be the one who is fulfilling my requests for my different employees in their different departments. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Everybody's nodding. I asked that. We're always on camera nowadays, and of course on these webinars we're not on camera, but I'm usually seeing people's responses, so I'm used to that. Does that make sense? Can I see everybody's head nodding? Okay, so let's take a look at a purchase order. Okay, so when we click on our purchase orders in the screen here, so you know, you can come in and see our list of different purchase orders. I can have my purchase orders because I can assign them to me uniquely if I wanted to. If we have drill into here so you can see all the fields available on a purchase order. So obviously we have add new, delete, right? Copy, so we can copy a purchase order, make it a template. You have different actions tied to a purchase order, which we can have approvals or rejections. So we can build approvals into this, multi-tiered approvals. You can build approvals based on price, right? Quantities, based on vendors, based on if it's for a particular job, based on department. There's all sorts of ways that we can build in approval trees. Email, mark as don't email, and then of course the things that we would connect. We can create prepayments through here. Okay, so tie the prepayment to the purchase order, which it kind of, well, you can't do that in QuickBooks, right? You can't create the prepayment and link it to the PO. You can only create the bill, and then the bill has a payment, and then if you have the payment, it's linked to the bill, and the bill is linked to the PO, right? But the payment is not linked directly to the PO. So in Acumatica, you can link the payment directly to the PO without having to enter the bill in the system. And then we have different reports tied to it. Notes, so we can have internal notes kept, maintained here. You can have activities tied to this purchase order, right? So if you needed to keep track of, I sent an email, we have a meeting with USA Bartending School about their pricing or whatever it is, you can keep track of activities, kind of like a mini CRM Lite. In QuickBooks, it'll keep track of when you emailed them. And then you can have to-dos, but again, it's not to-dos tied to a user. File attachments, and then any kind of notifications. So you can set up auto notifications. Maybe, I don't know, it's a big purchase order for a customer and you want the project manager to get a notification anytime any of the parts come in. Or this is a new vendor and you're responsible for this vendor and you want notified the first time we receive stuff in from them. So you can reach out to them and, you know, foster that vendor relationship. Coming into the purchase order itself, so we have the ability to have different types of purchase orders, right? This is, you can create your own types if you want to, but a normal purchase order, drop ship, blanket, standard, and those different types would just be like different templates, right, basically. Purchase order number scheme, you can have it on hold if we want to, so just different statuses. We have statuses pre-built in based on something happening, right? Approved, open, on hold, etc. But we can create our own custom statuses if we want to as well. So who's the vendor? We can choose which location we're buying from this vendor, so specify that. I've had customers where that matters because, you know, if they're ordering from a company, my client has locations on both coasts, and they want to make sure that when they order from the vendor, that the vendor is shipping from their local location and not the other coast, because shipping costs will be higher, right? You can specify based on vendor location. Okay, and then just a quick little overview. We can have a description, like an overall description on this PO. That's something that's unique, I think, too. We have the memo field, but it's not the same, right? And it's not facing, customer facing. We have the document details down below here, so we can come in and add new items. We can switch to a grid entry kind of looking form. We can view, right, how much of these products are available on demand. We can add a blanket PO. We can export to Excel and import from Excel. So whatever columns I have here, I can hit this Excel, it'll drop it into Excel, fill in whatever I need to fill in, or copy and paste, right, and pop it right back in from the screen. So you can see here, we do have the ability to do account or item, right? It's not in two different places, it's in the same place. We have line type. I mean, we can have line numbers. That's one of the things I get asked a lot in QuickBooks, is to have a line number so that we can go back and sort back to the original order. We can add that in here. Description, I mean, there's so many fields. It's overwhelming. Of course, we show you these fields so that you have awareness of what's possible, but when we set you up into a product like this, you wouldn't need access to all of these, most likely. So unit of measure, so that's something that QuickBooks Enterprise can do as well. Multiple units of measure, unit cost, extended cost, discount percentage. So we can have discount at the line level here. Okay. We can have alternate IDs. We can have receipt actions, right? So what that would mean is if you're saying on this particular PO, I will accept a partial shipment, but I'm going to warn them that I won't, or I will not accept a partial shipment, or if I get a partial shipment, then close out the rest of the line, right? So you can set some standards for what you will do with the vendor. Do not accept beyond a certain date, right? Promised on date or whatever it is. You can tie a project. You can also tie a sub-project. You can tie a task. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do as far as job costing. We can decide whether or not we have compliance that we need maintained with this particular vendor. Okay. I mean, there's just so many different, right? The accrual account, if we're having an accrual account, are we closing out this line? And then, of course, billed and unbilled quantities will all be maintained there. You can attach documents at the line level. So that's one thing. So if you need to attach things at the line level, you can do that. And then there's just some more fields, right? Max receipt percentage, min receipt percentage, just some more things. Okay. So lots of fields that we can track it down. So going further, we have tax details, right? So if we needed to track for use tax tracking, we can add that in here. Shipping instructions. So pretty standard things here. Where are we shipping it to? Who's the shipping contact? So that's just some additional fields, right? What's the ship to address? Ship via. Vendor information. So any additional information about this particular vendor, but we could override it. That's just pulling from the vendor card. What are their terms? Tax zone. Approval details would be tracked in here. So this would show if anybody's approved it, rejected it, and who's doing it or who we're waiting on. Any discount details. So this would be like header level discount details, right? Not particularly line level discount details. PO history. So we do have this in QuickBooks as well, right? So you're used to seeing it on the reports tab. So we have transaction history. It's really small. It's a really small little box that pops up though. It's not super helpful. So this is, you know, you just see it better here. I don't know if you guys ever tried to go through an item receipt against a purchase order, and there are, you know, 20 item receipts. It's just a small box. You can only see 2 or 3 lines at a time. And so it's hard to know, you know, which ones have I looked at, but this will give you the information, right? So all the receipts that are tied, what's the status of the receipts, all the bills, what's the status of the bills. Can track change orders through the system. So if we have any change orders that we need to keep track of, tied to a particular project usually, so this is in the construction side generally that we're tracking change orders. Other information, it's kind of generic, but yeah, what branch is this for? What sales order type is it tied to? Okay, what work group IDs would be, you know, you can tie vendors, you can tie customers to a particular work groups so that they're out, you know, it categorizes who the information goes to on the other side. Okay, And then of course we have compliance, which we talked about before. So compliance would be, you know, if we needed to maintain a certain document of this vendor's, right? And we had expiration dates. If they were out of compliance, then it would trigger that here. But this would be unique compliance, not just to the vendor, but just to this particular order as well. Okay. All right. Questions. So can you add photos to a PO? I'm not sure if you mean at the line level, like when you print out the purchase order that you want to see the picture on the line. So that's a possibility. Also, you can print out the PO with the barcode on the line of the purchase order. So that's it's an action of the template, right? So when we print it out, yes, line level, the product's ordered, so you can do it at the line level. Or are you talking about just on the screen, maybe? The way to get it on the screen would be that we would have to click on the actual item itself, I believe, but I can ask. And then it would be under attributes. Okay. Any other questions around purchase orders? Again, the takeaway, the things that I always want to take away is just an education. We're very big at Fort Lauderdale education. We like to teach people how to fish, right? How to do it on their own. But I think that the thing that I found the most with my QuickBooks clients is they don't even know what's possible. So having out there and understanding what's possible is a huge part of the empowerment and making decisions in your business. And then, of course, sometimes what's possible isn't what's needed, right? We say that to clients frequently. If we can't get QuickBooks to work, oof, it's going to be a struggle to get into ERP. So we want to make, we want to make QuickBooks work. Our processes get down really tight there. So that way, when we go into a product like this, that we are ready and that we will have more success. Okay, but knowing what's possible is super important. Couldn't even dream it up, right? That's some of the things when I see stuff in here, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know that existed out there. All right, everybody, I hope you got a couple of nuggets from today. I look forward to hopefully seeing you next month as well, and I hope everybody stays safe out there. Thanks, guys.